All right, thank you everybody for being here tonight. I'm going to call to order the February 4th, 2026 Budget Subcommittee meeting. We will start with grants and gifts. If anybody can't hear me, just yell so I can.
Thank you. And we're going to go out of order, just go through some typical items we usually have. The first one to share is we were awarded through DESE $28,415 for implementing updated regulations regarding timeout practices plans. I'm actually going to put Principal Doherty in the spot here. Would you mind popping up and just talk about what you're looking to do with the grant? And, yeah, sure, please. Help write it.
Yeah, I'll just put a note here. Basically, we've started to implement collaborative problem solving at SEACH through working with Joe Estucia and also Lindsay Jacobs, who is a trainer of collaborative problem solving. So she's been able to work with some of our staff this year just to kind of get the basics of working on that. We talked about it when I presented my school improvement plan. And it was basically just to put in some more proactive trauma-informed practices to support students that may be dysregulated or having difficulties with social emotional regulation or behavior, and be able to find other avenues for supporting them without kind of that timeout or bringing them out of the classroom. So it basically is going to be used to implement the collaborative and proactive solutions model, which was formerly just collaborative problem solving. We'll be working with consultants who will be coming in and training teachers. We have about 6 teachers that will be considered our kind of main cohort, and they'll be receiving all of the training to actually become trainers for collaborative problem solving so they can work with staff in the building. Along with our school, we'll also be working with Pingree as well. So Pingree will be taking advantage of that, and they will have teachers within their building and staff that will be getting the training as well. It involves teacher training, admin training. It also allows teachers to sit in on the training. What the difference is, when you're being a trainer, you get feedback on how you do the model, but you are allowed to sit in. You just don't get that direct feedback. So they ask for recordings and things like that, and they come in and give you direct feedback, but anyone can be involved in it. And the goal is to eventually have the entire building and, perhaps moving it out to the district now that we'll have actual trainers in the district to support other buildings as well. And it's really to kind of help be more proactive with the idea of recognizing students that have behavioral needs, that have dysregulation, knowing kind of what the ins and outs are for supporting them so that we're able to treat it in the moment or before the moment starts so that we have less time off of learning, less time out of the classroom, and being able to support the students, all of the students in the classroom so that they're not, exposed to dysregulated students as much or behaviors as much, and being able to work collaboratively with the teachers and the student to support those behaviors. Along with that, we also will be getting books to have teacher book clubs, staff book clubs, and we also have parent nights. So we're looking to do something at open house next year where some of the trainers, Lindsay Jacobs specifically, will be giving information on the CPS, being able to actually support parents with using some of that model at home as well. And they will also leave with materials and resources that they can use to support their students and also support the school community as well.
Thank you, Nicole.
Can I ask a few questions?
Yes, please. And I just want to note this is through Executive Director Meg Relico's office. So thanks, Meg and Lindsay Jacobs. But we asked Nicole because she did a lot of that work, and it's really a district-wide grant, but the work was starting at SEACH.
Is the parent night, would that be open up to the whole district, or would that just be specific to the school that they're in?
So we haven't really worked out the logistics yet. We actually have a meeting this week to kind of talk more about it because we literally just got word that we got it. But we're always open to how it best supports the district, and the goal of it is to eventually support the district as a whole. So it's not just going to be for SEACH or Pingree, but just to kind of start there. But it's definitely something that I know Lindsay and all of us are really passionate about, and Meg's been super supportive with. So I think any way that we can figure out a way to support as many people as possible with it, and invite them in to learn about it, we're totally willing to do that.
I'm excited to hear about it because we've known about the grant for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
I know we didn't get it the first time that we applied. My other question is, I did have another question. The schools and is it Yale Lawn, and can you reapply after a year?
You might know better about that reapplying.
Yeah, it's only if they come out with another separate
Yeah.
grant. Like
Yeah.
this has been the second iteration of the grant to reduce the use of timeout. And I think it's through September.
Yeah, and we met with them. It's Life in the Balance that does the training, and it's the consultants that we'll be working with, and they work with Ross Green, who's, obviously
I know, Rush.
started the, collaborative problem solving. So they've been really flexible with us. So since we've kind of, getting it late in the year, they're going to work with us here and then follow us into the fall. And they did say we can go a little bit past September as well. And there might be some, some things over the summer that we can work on as administrators and things like that. So
Is there like a time that we have to have those allocations spent by, like similar to ESSER, or can we just kind of drag that out?
Typically, it's June 30. Sometimes they allow a carry forward. We don't know the details of that yet.
Any other questions from the committee? Tracy?
How many teachers are going to participate in that? Is it just a grade level or?
So right now we're able to have 6 trained specifically to become trainers at Seach, and then there'll be 6 as well at Pingree. But any teachers that are interested can sit in on the trainings. They just won't get that explicit feedback. So like the whole building could technically get the training. They just don't get that explicit feedback because they do have time constraints on how long the meetings run and things like that. But it will be 6 directly. Within our building, we're able to do it with a representative for each grade level and a special education teacher as well. And then myself sit down on it. And then our adjustment counselors who are already familiar with it will be part of a different cohort that will just be part of the training, but they'll get that at another time.
Thank you.
With the idea to eventually have everybody trained.
Yes. Yep.
Great. Awesome. Any other questions from the committee?
I just have a question. Can you talk about how often does Joel visit your school? Like, what does that look like currently?
So right now, because of we're far into kind of working with him, it's about once a month. At the beginning, when he started with us last year, it was almost like every other week. And it was for quite a period of time, like there'd be over an hour, sometimes 2-hour meetings. A lot of it would be with myself and Jackie Neen and the assistant principal going over things. And once we started kind of getting an idea of what we wanted to implement, we have our student support team, which is our adjustment counselors, the BCBA, Nurse Mary. We kind of worked together and started meeting with him to kind of get that CPS idea out and rolling with the trauma sensitive practices. But right now we're on a once a month basis because we're kind of over the hump of implementing what we need. And now he's just meeting with us to monitor things and kind of just next step practices that we need. And part of that is implementing this training and things. Yeah.
I have one more question. So I guess I'll direct this to Dr. Verlico. So like, what will that look like for Pingree that has a therapeutic program? Like how often will Joel be going over to support the staff there?
So Joel has kind of been a separate thing that we've been doing. I know Seach had a prior grant for some of the work with Joel. So far Joel has been out there twice. We haven't nailed out for the rest of the year what that will look like. We have a lot of things that have been going on and kind of working with, and I know some of the staff is here too, working with the staff on some of these practices. So we also want to make sure we're kind of being methodical and not throwing everything all at once. The collaborative problem solving will be another layer of something that Joel is very passionate about and supports as well. So we can give updates on what the plan is for Joe's involvement, but this will be another layer that we're kind of adding in and planning out the frequency of that training as well.
Go ahead, Ashley.
This sounds really great, and it sounds like it's been really productive and positive and all of those things. And I guess I was just wondering, like, how do you get feedback from students or parents or teachers on how things are going, like monitoring your progress? Like, I'm sure you have a perspective on how things are going. So is there a way that you are like collecting data to see how it's positively impacting like over time?
Yeah. So we keep track of all of our office referrals. Anytime a student's referred to office for support or just had any sort of behavior incident, we keep track of them. And every month we run a report to see, what level we're at and what the behaviors are. We do rounds every Friday. So the team talks about what the behaviors look like, what students are being flagged for, repeated behaviors, things like that. I will say the last thing we looked at the last couple of trends, and I know in October we were at like 73 office referrals, and then by the end of November we were down to like 34.
Oh, wow.
And then since then that's even changed drastically. And the idea of is just that proactive approach. So it's not reacting to behaviors, but just learning your students, knowing, understanding their needs, and being able to involve them in the process of helping them learn how to regulate themselves. Understanding what their triggers are, being able to give them voice to be able to voice that so that they can tell you what they need in the process. And it's made a huge difference. And the teachers are really invested in it because it's giving them a lot of power in their classroom. I think they feel like they have a lot more tools now to be able to be proactive with students and support them and understand them more. So they're calling for support less and less.
It's great.
So back to the grant is there progress monitoring that you have to give to Desi for the grant too?
Yeah, so it kind of goes along with everything that we've already been doing, I think, which is one of the reasons why we were so fortunate to get it, because there was a lot of the practices that we were putting in. So Joe isn't tied to that, but a lot of the trauma-informed practices that we were doing allowed us to then kind of take that next step to kind of ask for that support, because we had kind of had that groundwork laid out with him. Yeah.
For it. That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Nicole.
Sure.
On to athletic sponsorship, just to.
Is it 2 more grants that we were gonna talk about?
2 more grants.
Was it the 2 more grants? No, what, it has no.
Yeah, it's under athletics.
Okay, oh, you can do that.
Yep, it's under athletics, sorry. So under athletics, we have 2 donations to share out. One is the Chesna Soccer Jamboree took place again this year, organized by Don Whitaker. He's a PE teacher at the high school. And that tournament took place in December and yielded roughly, still working the final numbers, but a $10,000 to $12,000 donation to the athletic department at the high school to again cover the cost of fees to enter athletic events. Last year was $20,000, so it's great to be able to do the Jamboree again this year and do another $10,000 to $12,000. So that is the donation from the Chesna organization. And then the other one is Girls Athletic Fund Scholarship. So there was Kristen Woodbury and Carrie Palazzo a few years back organized a non-for-profit. They are ending the organization, and the funds that they have remaining, it's roughly $3,000, will go to Weymouth High School for $500 to $1,000 scholarships for female athletes going on to higher education who will participate in college sports.
And the high school will manage that application process just like others?
Correct. They have a number of high school scholarships specific to the Weymouth High School that they manage.
Any other questions from the committee for that?
And then the last couple items, audits and reports. We're happy to report we've finally purchased another multifunction student activity bus or vehicle. This is a Ford 2025, and it'll allow the CTE program to once again, the best example I can give is carpentry. We'll be able to transport students and equipment because we are outfitting it with a trailer hitch to get to sites around town to have kids build, decks and sheds and whatever things they do.
There's no certain licensure for the trailer?
Not that the trailer just follows standard. It's under a certain weight, which we are.
Great.
So we have it, maintenance has put the trailer hitch on. So they did this in the past, and a few years ago, we got away from it. But now we purchased a brand new vehicle with the $300,000 earmark through Jamie Murphy's office for CTE, and maintenance outfitted the vehicle. So it'll start, we're going to train leaders that want to drive it, and we'll go from there. We'll get rolling soon.
Literally.
I will definitely be, if they want to start at my house. At my home second, yeah.
Another house.
And then the last item is measure 25-111 through town council. This was the 5-year contract for school transportation services. So they did vote favorable action on Monday, February 2nd, to allow us to procure up to 5 years for a new big yellow bus contract, currently with First Student, ending June 30, 2026.
Their contract ends June 30th, 2026.
Correct.
When do we put out to bid? Anytime?
End of February, yeah. We're gonna do an invitation for bid, takes time, so that's why we had to move somewhat quickly to get that approved, because typically we can do 3-year contracts, but with council and school committee approval, we can do up to 5-year. We do feel we get, certain economies of scale and, a better pricing with a 5-year versus a 3-year.
Locked in pricing, so if
Correct.
anything goes up.
There's certain escalators for fuel, very minor compared to the contract itself. But the contract this year, for example, is 2.7 million, I believe. We're anticipating we're seeing 10 to 15% increases across the state. So we feel like a 5-year contract could maybe get us a lower, like maybe a 10% increase.
Thank you. Go ahead. Teresa.
What happens if nobody else but for a student ends in the bid? Do we have to close it and open it up again?
No.
Or do we just go? Okay,
I mean, it's the first student for years. We have a good relationship with them. But the process works because you never know. So it is competitive that way.
thanks.
Any questions from the committee? Moving on.
So we'll come back to the beginning here. We're gonna start with proposals. We have WECC Academy Nat Albert. Going to review their staffing requests. Their expense budgets is really what we've talked about in other hearings. It's a 1% increase to their expense budget. They have the ability to move between lines, expense activities. The staffing, we're gonna talk about staffing requests. And in our meetings, we do a lot of like reallocation of resources. For example, at WEC, we were able to move some positions around, and this is truly the adds though. This is the additional requests which require additional funding for next year's budget. So I will bring up on the screen. This should look familiar to folks that have been watching. So we'll just go right down the list. We did talk about district. So now we'll skip right down and we'll go alphabetical order, and we'll start with Academy. Academy out. Higgins.
All right, well, thank you everyone for what you said tonight. Again, our expense budget is relatively the same. Looking for staffing, one of the future considerations put on the docket here with assistant principal, as our size is 30 to 74 kids, 18 classrooms, staff of 54, which just help with teacher support, coaching, ED, evaluations. Would also help again with supervision, safety, all those key pieces as well. And again, of course, management and operation of our building. But again, that's a future consideration.
Thank you. Higgins. We'll go down to Nash.
So Nash School, we are adding a grade. Nash is growing, and with that brand new grade 1 classroom, of course, we continue to put that for the future. The assistant principal, we'll have over 300 students, and the needs of the students are increasing. To have that ability to be a coach and instructional coach for the teachers, and the way our students are changing. Are changing in instruction. So it's always good to have that extra support. And I was an assistant principal in Weymouth. That's how I ended up here. And I know how hard assistant principals work and how important they are. I was lucky enough to move into the principal, but it is such an important part of the structure of the school. So we'll continue to put that on there.
And sorry, just introduce yourselves as you go in. So
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Patrick Higgins, Principal of Academy.
Yep.
Francesca McDevitt, principal of Nash.
Thank you. Excellent.
Deva, can I ask a question about the Nash? Was this, did we prepare that this was gonna be an additional classroom, or was this kind of like increased enrollment, like out of nowhere?
No, this was.
And planned.
yeah.
So they added an extra K this year.
Okay.
So we know now it's a
So there's no space.
Correct.
And do we have, and we're okay with space for that?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that will be a shut off valve as well. So we talk about the bubbles of
Yep.
population going through a school. Nash will probably only handle
Mhm.
that small bubble. They'll have the 3Ks next year.
3K,
3 months, and
Mm.
then that will go back to 2Ks.
Okay.
Because they can only handle that bubble.
that cohort will just kind of push through those two groups of 3.
And space wise, we'll just use the empty one from the grade before. For the
Yes, and then, yeah, just strategically kind of place them and make sure they're kind of within.
Yes, thank you.
on the finger. Yes, finger?
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, sorry.
I'm Heather Ronan, I'm the principal of Pingree. We're requesting 2 additional ABA paraprofessionals to adequately meet the growing academic, behavioral, and emotional needs of our students in TLC. Currently, our student needs, particularly those related to behavior regulation, regulating behaviors, safety and access to instruction, they're increasing in both frequency and intensity. So by adding 2 hopefully float ABA paras, would allow us to assign consistent support person at each grade level, improving coverage, continuity of care, and proactive support for students with disability. And the structure would reduce reactive staffing responses, minimizing instructional disruptions, and ensure that students receive timely support in inclusive settings.
Can I ask a question? And I think I asked Dr. Olico the same question, was how do we decide an ABA is an appropriate, like versus an RBT or any other adjustment counselor? So what was your thinking around that?
Yep. So currently we have we have a number of ESPs, and they are not they do not collect data for us for students. And so by having ABAs, and right now we have an ABA that's also an RBT, which is great. It's really about the level of training that they have, and by having that specialized training with students with behavioral challenges, we think that is an appropriate level to be able to help support both their behaviors and with regulating them, but also supporting them in the classroom.
And this wouldn't be specific always to the TLC. This could be a general education classroom too that they could flow to, correct?
So our TLC students are often in the mainstream classroom, and they're supported in there. They are mostly supported in there, which is why we're looking for additional staff so that they can consistently be supported in there.
And resulting in probably more inclusion time if they're supported.
That is always our dream.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Danielle, I also, just a quick question. Their float ABAs, do they have a place to hang their hat? Like where do they go? Are they floating, really floating?
So there, no.
Where do they go?
So
We're adding 2, so where do we put 2 more adults? Like,
yes. So they would be assigned typically to a particular either TLC 1 or TLC 2 with the stipulation that it's flexible. It's a fluid process, right? So you have staff that might be absent, or you have some staff that a particular student might be having a difficult time. They build relationships. So they do have homes. It's typically TLC 1 or 2, but we are pretty flexible with that staff so that they know all of the students. So they don't just, they don't get attached to just particular students, that the students can be flexible with the staff that's working with them.
I'm just curious, is there a space that they can go if they do need to pull someone out so that they need some like deregulating time or whatever? Is there a place for them to go?
Use every nook and cranny of our school.
And just for the new faces that are in the room, again, what the difference is between an ABA. An ABA is an applied behavior analysis. That's somebody that's trained to, assist and support those with behavior needs. An RBT is a registered behavior technician. That's a registered person that goes and takes a board exam, and they're registered. And a BCBA is a behavior
Board certified behavior.
certified. I forgot that. Board certified behavior analysis, which is who that would oversee an RBT, and they're also certified. Did you have questions?
I'm really happy to see you come with an ask for that program, because I definitely think the TLC program needs further support. My concern about this is that an ABA does require supervision. And right now, the BCBA at Pingree is assigned to 3 schools, which I know is not your doing. So I want to say that. But this is something that we need to look at. Pingree houses the therapeutic program for our entire town at the elementary level, and it needs further support. It needs a BCBA that is there to supervise and train staff consistently. And I just don't understand why our elementary school that houses this type of program doesn't have this supervision and training going on consistently every day. They shouldn't be at 3 schools. So it's something I would like to see student services really take a look at.
And we'll continue to look at each year. We look at schedules and we do have it on the
Yeah,
list.
it's
So
just-
we'll
it-
continue to look at it.
You know, these kids are here for a reason. They need the support, and the staff that are showing up every day for them deserve that support. So.
Any other questions from the committee? Thank you, Ms. Roman.
I am Kathleen Conley Day. I'm the principal of Talbot School. I'm happy to be here tonight. I have two requests. The first one is the addition of an assistant principal. This AP would help effectively support the increasingly complex academic, social, and emotional needs of our student population at Talbot. Talbot serves a diverse community that includes, we're very fortunate enough to house a district program, RISE, as well as we continually have a growing number of students with IEPs, as well as the increasing needs of social and emotional behavior challenges across all grade levels. The high intensity rise of students' dysregulation and social and emotional needs of our students, having the role of an AP would not only assist with the prevention of student escalations, but when escalations do occur, the AP would assist with maintaining safety for all students, supporting students, informing families of such situations.
A little bit.
That speaker over Lamar.
Oh, sorry. Informing families of such situations and creating plans and supporting our teachers. Obviously, with the rise of these students with the challenges of being dysregulated in their social emotional needs, we've had many conversations where it's getting harder and harder for me to be there for teachers as far as learning and instruction and whatnot, because a lot of my time is spent trying to assist in these situations. So the AP's role would have a lot to do with IEPs and, working with the RISE program as well. And just kind of main role would be in special ed and in that area, allowing me to kind of focus on instruction. And then the other ask would be an additional building substitute, again, with lots of IEP meetings, and just kind of, I try to do check-ins and meetings with teachers. Having the additional support of an additional building substitute would allow for coverage for these meetings. And in chances that we are not having meetings or teachers are not absent, then I could utilize this staff member to do interventions in small groups throughout the building in different grade levels.
Thank you, Ms. Day. Any questions from the committee? Sydney.
How many students?
306.
306. And then it's 24,000 for the building sub. That would be a part-time.
That's full-time.
It's full-time. So we have our daily substitutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have, we call building subs, one or two. Jeremy, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, each building typically, some of the larger buildings have two building subs and then some of the smaller buildings have one. And they are there every day, whether there's a substitute needed or not. And typically we do need a sub. Somebody's out on any given day, which such, so many employees, but if they're not being utilized to cover for a staff member, then they assist in other places, which is a huge value. And the advantage of that is they're part of the community, they're part of the culture, the kids know them, it's just a different level of respect and understanding, I think, so.
It's been a great pipeline for new staff. They start as a building sub, get to know the building, build relationships, and then they come into a permanent role.
Yeah, quite often they're aspiring teachers. That's what we seek to hire, but not always is that the case. But that way they get some great, great training and learning, and a lot of times those turn into permanent positions after the fact.
And do you have one currently?
I currently do, yep.
And you're looking for one more. Okay.
She is currently a teacher, but she's going for her master's, and this is providing her an excellent. She's an amazing young woman, and she's doing a great job and getting much experience from kindergarten to 5th grade.
Sure.
Really a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Mary Ellen, did you? I'm skipping over you. Go ahead, Sherry.
So we have several assistant principals. Are we looking for someone with background in special needs? or someone with a degree in that or experience, versus a degree and background? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, when, in the previous administration, when we added assistant principals at the elementary level, that was the idea, that they were going to support the student services office, that they'd have someone in the building, to support special education. That was the idea behind it.
With an administrator.
With an administrator, but, okay, that's what I was kind of looking at. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mary.
So I don't know if this is the right place to bring it up, but I have some concerns about the RISE program and its movement from Nash to Talbot. I didn't know about it until we received a letter from a parent that it was actually going through. So my question is, we didn't have the audit, the copy of that presentation presented to the school committee to see what the results were of that audit. So I would like to see that. First of all, I have a concern about, is there enough space at Talbot to house the RISE program for everyone? Because it looks like it was 3 classes. So it was K and 1, and then 2 and 3, and then
No, 4-5.
no 4, 5. And now it's going to be K through 2, 3 through 5 in 2 rooms. Is there space for it? Do they have all the facilities and materials and equipment that they need for this to be a safe and prosperous place for these children to learn? Are they going to have bathrooms and sinks and all the facilities that they need? I just have a concern that they're moving. I know that there was a promise made to the 5th graders that they were going to finish their tenure at Nash because they have a connection to those people, and now they're moving. And my heart goes with these kids and their parents that this is a big upheaval. We were trying not to have transitions, and they're going to be there for a year and then move. So I just wanted to put that on the table. I didn't know if it should go with the expense part or the staffing part.
We can certainly get the information on the report, but I'd ask if Meg or Kathy or Francesca want to comment if you can.
Yeah, I can speak up. So we can certainly share that report from Ann Donovan. And I will say that there was very much a commitment. I think we still have the commitment of not moving programs. We very much understand that that can be a disruption to students. The concern in this situation and the recommendation that came about from Ann Donovan was because of the very small number of students, that if you only have 3 students in a classroom, and one is absent, for example, now you only have 2 students. So it really limits their opportunities for communication, social interaction, all of those naturalistic teaching opportunities. Also that, certainly inclusion with gen ed peers is a critical part of their educational component. When students are in a substantially separate classroom, but just by the description of that, they're in that smaller classroom at least 60% of it. So the majority of their day is spent in that small classroom. So we do really have to consider that cohort of students. That's something that's important for us to look at. So that was the main recommendation. I think space is certainly something that we've got to consider across the board. We know that space is at a premium. So we did keep all of the staff from Nash to move over to Talbot. And that also will allow for really good student to teacher ratios. We can have up to 12 students in a classroom, so for a substantially separate. So technically we could have split that just between 2 teachers and 2 classrooms, but we made the decision to keep all 3 teachers so that we will be doing some flexible groupings and things like that. Just looking at the needs of the students. So all of that has not been planned out in terms of which teachers will be with which students and whatnot. That's something we'll be doing as the spring goes. I don't know if you have anything to add in terms of the facilities or.
No, I think that, I'm excited to have the entire RISE program at our school. Kind of, it started out with just 1 classroom, and I feel as though the RISE teacher that began at Talbot did an amazing job. Although she was, I think at times she may have felt like she was one person all by herself, where the rest of the RISE program was over at Nash, was housed at Nash. But they did a great job communicating with each other. They had opportunities at PD to get together. So I am excited and I understand the hesitation because it was put out there that they would remain at Nash until they graduated to go to Chapman, right? So I completely understand that. However, I look at it as, we're having the whole team together. So I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to helping with the transition, and welcoming the new families.
And I had the opportunity to call each family. They didn't just get a letter. I did call and make sure they knew what was happening. I explained the transition. We talked about how their teachers would be following them, and they seemed okay. They seemed okay about it. Some of them understood. They did want their children with more children versus the 3. And it was some good conversations with them. They deserve the phone call. Those are their children that are being moved. So there was true conversation and having with them.
So if I could ask one more question, so talk about the physical space of the rooms. Is it going to be like a divider? So like because they're not all at the same level or whatever. So if it's 3 through 5, are there dividers? Will there be 3 Promethean boards? Will there be, has that?
This is actually how it's set up in many of the programs
Okay.
already. So it is, I have
It just
voiced
feels
my
like it's from
frustration
3 to 2, so.
to several people at this table of how I feel about this, and I think everybody, administrators and principals, know I'm not in favor of this. I agree that I respect that you had conversations with families. I don't think this is the appropriate place to talk about it either, but I think I have 2 concerns. My main concern is that a family would be okay with it, that they've been in that building for 5 years and then they're okay with leaving that building. That concerns me, especially with the fact that belonging was one of the top things that we were told we needed to work on within the district.
I think it was because the teacher was going.
Which I get.
Yeah, I think that was the.
I've been in this exact circumstance several times, several years in a row. It's detrimental to those students, whether we think it or not, and whether we think it's a small subset of students, it doesn't matter. They're looked as irreplaceable, you know what I mean? And it's hurtful to families like us. I have huge emotions about this. Everybody knows that. And I'm disappointed that it wasn't the plan that we all decided on. And I heavily advocated for myself. And I'm disappointed to see that it's going to happen.
And can I just, it's not so much that they're going to, it's the timing, right? Is that what people are upset about?
Either way.
That they're not.
Another big move. It's
So
a
they're
huge
moved-
transition.
Yeah, so they're having to move to Talbot for a year, to just be there for a year, and then to have to transition to Chapman. These are students with disabilities where transitions is very hard for them. So to have to transition and then transition again, we talk about student belonging. We say we're going to be transparent as a school committee. I found out through this email from this parent, like, I'm on the school committee. Why didn't I know that this happened to these 3 kids? And people could say it's just 3 kids, but we say we value student belonging. We need to show these 3 kids that we care about them. I don't care if it's 3 kids. We value everybody's child. I don't like the way that we found out, and I don't think we were transparent. That's what upsets me, because we keep saying we're going to be transparent about things, and it's upsetting.
Go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah, I agree. I was also disappointed that I didn't know about this until a constituent reached out about her concerns. And I agree with all of you that it's not just 3 kids, these are 3 people. And this is a huge transition for them. I mean, transition for a neurotypical kid is huge. Never mind a child who has extra challenges. So I don't know, I really felt for this parent. And also I feel like as a school system, if we say we're going to do something, we need to follow through and do it, because we want to build trust with parents. We want to build trust with each other. We want to build trust with everybody. And when you break your promise, you break the trust. And these parents have already been through so much. I feel like no wonder why they're angry. We really have to make sure that we show up for everybody. So 3 kids isn't just 3 kids. Those are 3 kids, and they mean the world to that family, and they mean the world to us. So I really, I feel very passionate about that, and I was very upset about it.
And I can certainly own the lack of transparency with the school committee, and I apologize for that. I haven't heard from any angry parents, so I just want to be careful of the dialogue of how angry the parents are. I can understand the frustration here at the table and the lack of communication on our team's part, but I do want to reiterate what Meg was saying, that when you have a substantially separate student that's spending 60% of their time in a classroom, and they would just be in that classroom with one or two, maybe one other children, we worry that that's not a feeling of belonging, because that's not really what our classrooms look like in any of the grade levels at any of our schools. So those are the very, very difficult situations and decisions we make all of the time. I say almost daily to people that I know that not everybody is going to agree with what we do, but I hope that you understand that we don't make decisions like this. We think them through. We have people here consulting for us. We care about every single one of our kids and our families. We don't just throw out there that we want people to belong. That's something we believe in. And so there's a lot of time and a lot of thought process that went to it. I will own that the part that we missed was right here at this table. And I apologize for that. I hope that will not happen again. But I promise you, there was a lot of thought put into this move, because I know in the past, we have moved programs. We've just decided, next year that program's going to that building. We move families, and we have ownership to not do that in the future. But in this situation, we truly believe we were doing what was right for our children and not being in a room with one or two other children all day, for the most part.
And I just want to, I appreciate that you did reach out after I had addressed it with you, and you did apologize that the communication wasn't there. And I think Megan, Christy, and I also had conversations about it. So I do appreciate that there was some ownership over that. But it's still a tough thing to deal with. Did you have something, Tracy?
It is a little bit toasty.
I appreciate that, Mel. I just want to make sure that parents are always included in making big decisions like that, and that they're not caught off guard. Because the concern more for me was that it sounded like a promise was broken or something wasn't followed through, and where these parents have been through so much trauma and hard work to get their kids where they need to be. And I hear you saying they're your kids too, but they're also these parents' kids first. They've spent hours and hours of their life researching for therapies and getting on wait lists. And so, I just want to make sure that moving forward, nobody's caught off guard in the communication with the parents. It really feels like a team effort. You know what I mean? That's my concern.
Staff involvement as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
But,
Sorry. Sorry.
I just wanted to mention Principal Perez, she'll also be back for fees as we talk about tuitions. But I don't know if the committee had any questions. Next group.
Okay, yeah.
Thank
Hi, everyone. I just want, did you have a question?
She's gonna, oh yeah, you didn't go.
No, I didn't go. The expense budget for the supplies, there's really nothing new on that. A lot of our supplies are even just bathroom supplies, gloves, tissue paper for changing tables, and just arts and crafts kind of supplies. And we've been so fortunate to have such a great parent council, and they've been great to provide us with glue sticks and crayons and all of that. We don't have any asks for staff this year. As Brian had said, there's a lot of allocation and shifts. So one of the things that we will be changing next year is we no longer will be offering halftime preschool programming. We're finding that more families want the full-time programming, so that is a shift. And we struggled to fill one of our halftime afternoon programs this year. So I think what happened is when, we're in the registration season right now, when we get towards the end and we only have halftime, parents will say, well, I really want a full-time slot, but I'll take the halftime. Maybe I'll make it work. So we were full when we left, but what happened end of August, beginning of September, parents said, this just isn't going to work. So we do have several openings in the halftime programming. So we're listening to our families. that is a big shift. We're going to move to full day programming. As I said, our registration is open right now. And I believe we only had about 57 slots, tuition paying slots this year, which is down from 87 because we have a lot of families that are returning. And the big ask is really the 5 full day. And one of the other things we did last year is to kind of mirror our kindergarten programs. We bumped up our classrooms to 20. So we're taking 15 tuition paying kids to 5 kids with IEPs. So that's a little bit of shift for us for our 5 full day programming. So we'll have a few more of those programs next year. And then the other shift that we made this year, and we just started it this week, we're doing more outpatient speech programming. And we're using our community center, the CFCE Center. It started today. We're really excited about that. And so these are the kids that really have speech only goals. They don't have the pre-academics, they don't have social goals. And what's great about it, it's being done collaboratively, that the parents stay and they're watching the speech pathologists kind of model for them. They have direct contact and consultation with the families right there. So I think it's going to be super successful, which will also kind of cut down a little bit on our special ed numbers. Because right now we're at about 48% of our students receiving special education services. So that shift in just this speech is going to kind of help with classroom numbers. And that's why we're able to go to that 15 and 5 split with those 5 full day classrooms. So because of all of that, we don't have any requests for staff.
What's your typical wait list?
So it's not huge.
And is it usually for the 5 full days or is it usually for like?
It's for the, yeah. It's all full day program.
Okay.
And I would say our top 2 are the 3 full and the 5 full. So I think our wait list maybe in November.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Thank you.
Hamilton, Augusta. Thank you all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Panetta. I'm the principal of Hamilton. So we have one ask for staffing as we move forward to next year, and that is an ABA ESP specifically for our CEP program. Next year will be our 5th year of having our brand of CEP3 inclusion. And with that comes inclusion, right? So we need more staffing to really assist these students as they are getting into the higher grade levels. Academics become more higher thinking, critical thinking, inferential thinking. They need a little bit more support. So really that staff member would be supporting CEP program only, and it would be mostly for our proactive strategies for inclusion.
Sorry. We have a side. We're talking good about you.
We need a poster up here that had like all the acronyms. It's like almost talking another language.
Yeah. Just say some letters and
I know.
It's something, it will lead us.
Let's make a poster.
Thank you, Ms. Fennell.
of course.
Good evening. I'm Patrick Costello. I'm the principal at the Murphy School. Nice to be here tonight. I just have one ask, and that is for an interventionist. We spent a lot of time looking at student data and reflecting on kind of collaborative approaches to past years where we strategized around bridging gaps. The interventionists that we had were kind of a key part in that work. And so looking at that and bringing that work back would be, I think, advantageous to both students and to classroom teachers, because the interventionists that we've had in the past have been very skilled educators, and it's been a real collaborative process. It's also a nice position because of the reach that it has. these people worked in several classes across the building, sometimes upwards of 8 classes for one person. You know, they go in for 30-minute periods and just keep going down the row. So they really had a lot of reach and made a lot of positive impacts. So I'd love to see that come back.
So for an interventionist, who do they report to? Like what academics do they do? Like,
So they would focus on, great question. They focus on math and reading, and in terms of reporting to somebody, they would work closely with me, really. Yes.
That was our MPSS. Remember we had
I remember the MTSS. They had like a
Grant funded.
Yeah.
different structures. So, and do they collect data? Do they on
They worked with data for sure. And they would attend our data meetings too, go over benchmark data and kind of rotate the groups that they would have for the upcoming period as well.
Does any of the other schools have?
Currently, no. These were all grant funded positions through Title I, I believe, in the past.
And what would their back, I mean, it's 24.
It's not full school year. I think it's 150 days maybe, or
Yeah, we would have, going back to the latest model that we had, it was 3 days per week. And I was fortunate enough to have very highly educated and high people who had been retired teachers or retired administrators come in. So people with a lot of experience. So typically wasn't, you know.
Not degree based, but it is someone you would like with someone with experience.
Sure, exactly. It's not a requirement, but it's definitely a huge asset.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
So an interventionist is kind of like, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of like a math specialist or a reading specialist who does like small pull-out groups, correct?
Well, they'd stay in the classroom, but yes, they would work with a small group of kids within the classroom during center time.
Okay, and okay.
any other questions? Good.
So I guess my question is, why wouldn't the other schools be asking for them as well? If it's been such an asset and it's helping, I'm hoping with the skill level of our kids and moving them along, why wouldn't other?
So if you don't mind me jumping in, if that's okay. It is data-based. So as Mr. Costello was saying, principals are constantly looking at their data during benchmark periods, fall, winter, and eventually in the spring when we get there. And so as we discussed this in the budget hearing, Mr. Costello was explaining he is seeing some dips specifically in his building that he'd like to address. So that would be the case in many buildings if they were seeing specific areas or dips. So it's very much data-based on those benchmark tests.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee?
Next.
Hi again, Nicole Doherty, principal of Seach. We are looking to create a therapeutic student support resource room. So we're looking for a special education teacher, specifically kindergarten or first grade, along with a ESP to support the classroom. We've noticed over the last few years an increasing academic and behavioral support needs of our younger learners. With the growing number of students requiring targeted assistance, it has become difficult even with the extra staffing we have acquired over the last year for our current staff to provide that intensive tier 2 intervention necessary for those younger learners' success. So the idea would be that this teacher would deliver intervals of focused academic instruction and behavior strategies in both small group and individualized settings for small groups of students that were identified as having those tier 2 needs. And then it would be, fluid throughout the day. So they would have homeroom base. And then, we would identify obviously parts of the day that maybe the student would require some more intensive tier 2 strategies that they would be able to go into this classroom with another teacher and work on those behavior strategies or those interventions along with academics as well. And really would enhance the collaboration with the gen ed teachers, maybe give opportunities for a gen ed teacher to swap out with this teacher so that gen ed teacher could work specifically with maybe a small pocket of students that they were noticing or identified for some of those needs. And then at the same time, we would, like an ESP to support that classroom or that small, group of students with that teacher to be able to help, with behavior plans, reinforce regulation skills, and just help with that structure and environment.
I have so many questions. You know, I love this idea. I love this idea. So where's the line between separate programming and a change of placement to this? So how often are we seeing this person go to the resource room? How often are we seeing this group go to the resource room? When are we doing it? Are we not doing it for, behavioral issues? Like, how are we delineating here versus Dale or TLC?
Right. Well, I think this is kind of that step in between that we're finding that we need, identifying students. And we have a lot of students, especially in our community, that not necessarily special education students, but still require a lot of those same supports. So this allows us to be able to support them with the goal of always being back in inclusion at a certain point. And sometimes it's just different parts of the day that they just can't maintain, especially our younger learners can't maintain a full day. They're very dysregulated certain parts of the day or certain demands on them. But at the same time, it gives us, I think, a better picture of what the actual needs are. So if we're identifying a student that maybe really does need these tier 2 interventions, and we're working with them for a period of time, and we're noticing, regardless of how much we're giving them, it's still not working, we're still unable to meet their needs, then I think that's when those next step conversations come in, and identifying what that might look like. Maybe they are students that then eventually need a program. But I feel like for our school, it gives us a better idea of identifying those needs and identifying who really does need maybe a sub-separate versus who just really needed that dose of really, specific tier 2 interventions to be able to move them back into the inclusive setting.
The idea is not going full 45-day placement, full sub-separate, full out-of-district placement. That's the idea. And it only moves us more closer to having one in every school. And then we don't have sub-separate programs moving for kids and not in their home schools.
Yeah.
How much collaboration do you have with special education on this?
Full collaboration. So, we've been thinking of it. Mrs. Nina and I have been thinking about it for a while. I think it really came in layers when we were able to get the extra supports that we asked for last year with the BCBA and the extra adjustment counselor. So we were really able to kind of target exactly what the needs were. Now that we had the full realm of support that the building needed, we felt like we were really locked and loaded and we had everything we needed. And then we were seeing, a lot of increase of students that were not special education students that were coming in, kindergartners or move-in first graders that were still really struggling. So that was kind of the next step in the process of once we had all of the supports and resources that we needed, okay, what's next? So we've been working really closely with Mel and Meg and Lindsay and meeting and kind of coming up with the plan. It really was a collaborative process. We had kind of this big umbrella of an idea and then being able to work with them and get, their input and expertise and being able to kind of, collaborate on exactly what it should look like. I think it's still a big conversation and a work in progress, and really, looking, really closely at it and what it would look like for our students and what it would feel like for our students and what exactly we want that structure of the day to look like. But it's definitely a need that we're seeing. And again, the idea is, we're big on, we want to keep our students, and we want to give, be able to say we did everything and anything we could do for them to figure out whether or not it worked, or if we couldn't do it, then we know this is exactly what they need. But it really gives us that, I think, security of knowing we gave it all and we did what we needed to do for them. And then what's the next step?
I love that and I appreciate it so much. I would love to hear if and when this does occur, I'd love for you to come back and tell us some data.
Of course, I'm seeing a lot more, Nicole. Great update. Yeah. And it was a lot of the work with Joe Estucia as well.
Okay.
Nicole and Jackie work with him so regularly, and he's just been a great asset for the school, for us as administrators, really a thoughtful person to work with and say, all right, we're achieving this, like what's the next level? And the school is amazing.
That's great.
If I can just clarify, it's not a special ed program. You could have students who are on IEPs accessing it. And, Mel and I have the experience in the past of kind of putting some of these supports, tier 2 pathways in place. And we're actually very careful not to have it be a program because we want to make sure there's not a concept of like, this is a separate place that student's going to go and stay for the day. It's really about a location and supports that can provide, whether it's a curriculum on social skills or self-regulation, and give them that dose so that they can go back into their classroom once they've kind of regulated or learned that skill. But it's really going to be a fluid thing. And again, you might have some students that are getting IEP services in there, but it would be very short amount of time and just an added resource to be able to do that. And that's, like you said, I think the goal ultimately for all of our students, that we're able to do that in shorter bursts of time so that it doesn't
Yeah.
become the need for a full day program.
And there would be, very specific kind of criteria for a student to be in there, or to, take advantage of the resources that are a part of this. It wouldn't just be because one student, had a fit one day and was upset. It would be trends that we were seeing over time and, identifying students that, we would probably try some other interventions first, behavior plans and things like that, and then identify what's working and what isn't. But it wouldn't just be, teachers would have the expectation of knowing this isn't a timeout space, isn't like my kid's having a hard time today, can you take them? It would be very specific, identified students that would need these short bursts of kind of interventions, again, with the goal of being able to keep them in the inclusive setting. And that's where kind of that collaborative practice, problem solving comes in as well. So along with that, then they'll be able to kind of support their students once they're back in there with their own set of skills to be able to keep them in the classroom.
And criteria wise for the educator, what would you be looking at for licensure for them or degree wise with that?
It doesn't need to be a special education teacher, even though I always like to have that lens. I just think that's important. But I really definitely would like someone that has, some sort of, maybe trauma background or background on behavior or SEL components, things like that. But, I think depending on exactly what we pinpoint as the model, once we really kind of get the idea that it's going to happen, then we would have, more explicit conversations on specifically what that support person would be.
Last question, nice way. Okay. Space wise, we're able to accommodate this too?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a space that I think that we could use. It's smaller, but I think with the idea of it being kept with a smaller group of students, it would work. We're always looking for more space, but I feel comfortable that if, we have a really large library that we would love to kind of break up, but it's not something that if we don't get that, then we can't do this. We do have other options if needed. Yeah.
Any questions?
Sounds exciting.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Doherty.
Thank you.
Next.
Hi, it's Django from West Augusta. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I have one request to reclass 2 ESPs for ABAs, working in collaboration with Megan Christie. Our CEP program is growing significantly, and additional supports are needed to be able to adequately support the needs in our CEP programs. There's some restructuring and shifting so that these two, shifting 2 ESPs to ABAs. Sorry, shifting 2 ABAs, ESPs to ABA staff members would allow us to better support the students in our CEP program.
Can I explain the structure a little bit?
Yeah, more acronym.
What CEP is Communications Enhancement Program? What level?
Kindergarten.
So right now, the partial inclusion strand that was started at West Augusta, so currently there's 4th and 5th graders. Next year will only be that 5th grade class. So that program has ESPs attached to it. It does not have the ABAs because those students typically don't require the ABA in their classrooms. So we do anticipate the numbers of students requiring the substantially separate coming up for K to increase. So we're planning to have an additional sub-separate K at West Augusta. We have some shifting around teaching positions, so we've got that covered within the budget. So that's why the budget add is just the para positions that are currently covering that partial inclusion strand. We will be shifting down for a substantially separate since we have so many students moving off to Chapman.
And how many are moving up from WEC? Do we know yet?
I don't know if Maura has the number. Total, yeah, between the partial inclusion will go to Hamilton, and then we'll need one at West Augusta.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Does that conclude our?
It does not. Last meeting, we talked about our philosophy around devices. We talked about middle and high school, really no change, but Assistant Superintendent Pratt is here just to follow up on conversations we had last week around the philosophy at the primary school.
Yes, so thanks, Brian. One of the things you'll notice on the expense sheets for the buildings is that the line item that has previously been there in the past for device loss and repair that those funds will now be going towards carts as we change our model for devices in the elementary schools. So we're shifting from a one-to-one, sorry, I'm trying to talk louder. I just realized for people, shifting from the one-to-one model in the elementary schools, thank you, from one device for each student K through 5 to a shared model for students in K through 2. And students in 3 through 5 will still have their own device, but it will be at school in a classroom cart. So I will limit my discussion on this because I get a little passionate about the devices in elementary education, but philosophically, it was the right time to make this change based on so much of what we're seeing in the elementary classrooms with the change in attention span, engagement. We see a lot of our behaviors, as the principals have talked about, we're tracking behaviors. We can tie a lot of behaviors to the expectation to get on the device or to come off the device. Some of us love getting on it, some don't. Some of us don't want to get off the device. We've also seen that the minutes that students are on the devices in those grades aren't necessarily productive minutes. So they might open Lexia, for example, on their iPad, and it would look like, yes, they're on there. What they're actually completing for assignments doesn't always match the number of minutes that they're actually on the iPad. So it really felt like the time to make this change. It was crucial during COVID and a really big benefit. But I think with time, we're seeing we don't need that one-to-one model for our littlest students. So they will have a shared cart for per grade level, which is where the funds come from, that we'd be able to provide carts to our elementary schools. There will, we were lucky enough that Seach and Murphy have volunteered to pilot this now so that they can sort of experiment and get out the bumps for us. And so we can troubleshoot how will we use devices when we do iReady testing, for example. We'll have to have some scheduling in place so that, you know, each class can access them when we need to. It won't impact students who need a device through their IEP in any way. We also know that some providers use them at times for different interventions. And so our initial idea, and we still have plenty of time for planning, but our initial idea is that there will still be loaners within each school of Chromebooks or iPads that people can sign out when they need them. So we're excited about it. We know it's the right thing to do. And I think we're one of the first communities that's kind of taking that leap to say, we're seeing a big difference and we really can tie it to this screen time in these devices. Everyone's been great. Brett, who was here, our director of IT, he and I have a shared document where we're kind of keeping track of the questions we get asked, brainstorming solutions, trying to get solutions from staff members of what would work. So overall, it's a really positive development and something I think we're going to see really great impact from for our elementary kids.
Thank you, Jen.
Go ahead, Ashley. I've heard great feedback. We've all heard great feedback about the technology and we're very grateful. So I think that aligns with a lot of parents' philosophies at home. You know, we're done with COVID. We're trying to move forward. We're trying to not rely on technology as much. So I think that aligns with a lot of people's home philosophies. I just want to make a general statement about people's needs list. I hope that the principals have really asked for what they need. I know that this is a financially, this is a hard time financially. We all know that. We're all feeling that every single day. Of course, not to beat a dead horse, but I didn't see STEAM teachers on here. And then also
they're on the
oh, did they? Oh, sorry, I missed it. Okay, oh, cool. The other thing is, like, I've heard about some issues at certain schools with there being too many kids at specialists. I do worry about specialist time in general, making sure that there's not too many kids in a specialist space and making sure, like, specialist to me is supposed to feel special. It's supposed to be a special time of the day. It's supposed to make especially elementary school a very exciting time of the day. And so I get concerned about the quality overall of specialist time. That's just something that's been on my mind
I am glad to hear that so many people are asking for the extra support in their schools. I think that that's really important. So, and I'm glad to hear that everything's going well with the grant and hoping to see that more out district wide. That's really exciting.
And thank you for the comment, Ashley. We can assure you, everything that was asked for is reflected. And it's easy for the finance guy to say, nope, they asked for everything they want and need. But my counterpart, Lindsay, double checked and double backed with each principal and tell me the truth.
You really need more.
But we feel confident in this list, but thank you for asking to clarify.
Yeah, because I mean, it's always good to ask, even if you don't think it's a realistic goal. The fact that it's out there, it's something to reach for.
Actually, anybody else from the committee? No. Thank you, everybody from the principal. I'm gonna open it up to the public if they have any questions they want to ask related to the principal. Brian,
Go to the podium.
Just if there's any questions related to the principal's presentation, and then we will open it up for public comment on the budget stuff too. But just anybody that wants to come up to the podium related to our schools.
Are we going through the budget as well as?
We did. It's this.
Can I just make one comment about the expense budget? So I understand that it was the 1% that all the principals were working with, but I kind of would have liked to have seen another column with what we really need, because this is, I couldn't go to BJ's and shop for $227 for like a one-time deal, and then some schools their increase is only $272. So I kind of would have liked to have seen like what they really need for expenses, like whether it's paper and crayons and all that stuff. With the prices of inflation and paper going up and all that, like see what we really would have wanted to.
It's like a range of if we were to.
I think, correct if I'm wrong, everyone came within the 1%. There might have been a couple of instances where it was slightly, it was over.
Yeah.
It was over. We did include it, but we did include it.
Not by a lot. I mean, I did the math on all of them. I did have my calculator out last night. And it, the total was like $2,700 increase. You know what I mean? If you put all the schools together, and I just don't want us to come to a place where we don't have copy paper or, like that there are needs because we penny pinch so much, I don't want it to hurt.
So it's a fair point, and as we get into scenarios shortly, Mary, adding back with more funding maybe becomes available. Obviously, it's not just people needs, but it's stuff needs.
Stuff needs.
Yep.
And I guess my second thing is, do we still have a needs list?
That's it.
That's that.
Yeah. For staffing positions.
For staffing.
Yeah. So this carried over from last year.
Capital needs would be the separate.
Okay.
Capital, that's in next month.
Yeah. Right. And I can assure you the supplies were nowhere in the days where it was like the recycled gray paper.
Right. Yeah.
You actually could write on. We're nowhere near that. And if principals, they can always reach out to Brian and Alyssa if they feel like they need more. It's just it's a starting point for them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marion.
I think Billy Martin still owes us money for paper.
Say again?
I hear your money.
Martin still owes us money for paper. A joke, I thought I spoke. Mike Murphy, the president of the WA. Quick question. When we originally went to the 101 model, there were many of us, at least from the union side, that didn't want to go that direction, knowing exactly what would happen down the line. We're going to see this cycle through that we're going to go back to a shared model, which is fine if that seems to be the way it's going to happen. My question, though, from a financial standpoint, is when you start losing the one-on-one, the kids can't do the work at home anymore. So therefore, you're going to have to create more paper, copying costs, and whatnot. And thank you, Mary Ellen, for taking all my steam there when you were talking. I'm just wondering, is that going to be taken into account? The fact that as you go from piloting 2 schools to go to more of a district-wide level, how much more money we're going to start paying in paper. And we all know how the copying machines work around anywhere. I'm not just going to say the town, but anywhere. They'll break down.
Procurement person here, Alyssa Bossy. We're currently in a contract for unlimited ink unlimited clicks, unlimited. The only variable cost is paper, which she has another contract for that we have excellent pricing on paper. And so I have not heard one complaint from Billy on not being able to keep up with the paper demand. But I just want to point out that the copying cost is a fixed rate, which is amazing across the district.
Yeah, but it's not now. Like, there's plenty of paper. I haven't seen anybody, especially at the high school, run out of toner. Yes, not paper. The problem though is once you start going into getting kids to get some work done at home, they're no longer going to be able to do it on the computer. Therefore, paper is going to be needed. You're going to have to, teachers going to make copies. It's going to take more time out of their day, and all the other little factors that go along with it. Not that it's a big issue. We've done it before as it cycles around, but.
And just to be clear, we're only making that change at K-5 right now. There hasn't been discussion as far as the older grades. And I think the expectation in 5th, there is, homework, of course, but that's something that we can plan for as
okay. I caution you on, especially, I don't know about the middle school, but the high school and the kids' use of Chrome.
Very different.
I don't have mine. I send 75 kids out a day to get it. So it's, or chargers and things like that. So it's probably going to head that way. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy.
Hi, I'm Scott Wiggerson. A quick question on your numbers on the spreadsheet. For the West Augusta line item for the ESP to ABA for CEP, I don't understand what that means. Is it 2 full-time employees for a total of 30 grand?
No, it's reclassification of positions. So it's positions that exist, the ESP, educational support professionals. They would become applied behavior analysts, the higher salary by $15,000 per. That's the $30,000.
So it's $30,000 total.
For the 2 positions to become those new positions.
Good. I was just checking the math.
No, check.
Thank you.
Well, I'm having the checkers.
I like having checkers.
Hi, I have more of a comment about the report than a question, so should I wait until the end or I can go now? Okay. I'm Rachel Clark. I'm co-president of the Pingree Parent Council. And I just have some comments around the asks of Pingree, and I think kind of to what Ashley was saying, like really making sure we're asking for, even if we know we're not going to get it next year or whatever it is, just making sure that like our needs are heard. So I absolutely love Pingree and I love our community, which part of our community is the TLC program. And based on what I've heard from other parents and just from what I've personally observed, it seems clear that the TLC program would benefit from additional support for both the students and the staff. When students in TLC become emotionally dysregulated and experience big feelings, it's critical that we have the right systems and personnel in place to support them effectively and safely. And so like I found out that there's one BCBA that currently travels between 3 schools, including Pingree. And my concern is that this model does not provide sufficient support for a level of need that we're seeing in our community. And I strongly believe that to properly support both the children and the staff in the TLC program, Pingree needs a full-time dedicated BCBA, just like Kelly had mentioned. A full-time BCBA would be essential for supervising ABA assistants and RBTs, regularly updating and overseeing behavior plans and responding more quickly when a child is in crisis, including situations involving student elopement. Without this consistent on-site support, the program simply does not have the resources it needs to function at its best. And I do, in addition to that, while I appreciate that an RBT has recently been added for the younger TLC students, I believe there's also a clear need for an RBT in the TLC rooms for the older students. And this, I'm hoping, I know we talked about the grant earlier, which sounds amazing, but I do think it's critical that we prioritize proper training and supervision for ABA assistants, along with ongoing professional development in best practices for supporting students with emotional disabilities. Investing in this support is not only beneficial for the students, it also supports staff retention, safety, and overall program success. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Anybody else related to just the primaries?
You have one.
All right, sorry. You are much more prepared than I am, and everything you said is so amazing. But
I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what you said, is everyone up here kind of came up asking for more support behaviorally for all of their schools. So I think like there needs to be more BCBA support across the districts. I know personally my daughter's at Hamilton and there have been significant behavioral concerns this year that Ms. Panetta has been amazing at addressing. But I know that just in all of my conversations and hearing everyone else's, like there needs to be more behavior support. Asking for ABA paras is amazing, but they're not trained. They're not overseen by any type of certification board like an RBT is. So without that more BCBA support, you're not going to be able to continue up with the training and the level of need that those ABA paras need. So thank you for being much more prepared. And nervous. But yeah, to piggyback off of that, I think everyone kind of said they need more behavior support and care. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And just on process, because we'll keep having that conversation about needs. But just process wise for anyone who's new to the public education process, Mass General Law, the way it's set up is that the principals do meet with their parent councils and their school councils early in the fall to develop their budgets and their needs lists. And then they go through the process. So we'll continue to talk about needs, but I don't want anyone to think that we don't listen to the parent councils and school councils when it comes to requests to the building principal. And then I want to go to, well, I saw one comment. I am unable to ask a question. Oh, okay. So Liana, you could post the question, and I'm happy to answer Alyssa Madera's question about West Augusta. I actually talked to the principal today, and once all this snow and ice melts in the spring, we do have a plan to do a project for fencing at West Augusta. So that will happen, but we just need all the snow and ice to go away.
Is that a capital?
It won't be. It's not a. It doesn't even touch the threshold of capital project. It's supplies that we will purchase, and our amazing maintenance staff will do the installation.
Did I hear that there may be a donator too for that?
There are people willing to donate, but again, it is the threshold of a capital project. This is way below, so we within our supplies can purchase the fencing. It's just our guys, they're all plowing and shoveling. So once the snow melts, we'll get out there.
In August.
No, this spring. We'll start working on it.
Hi, Brian. How are you? So I prepared a brief statement that I wanted to make sure I spoke today at Budget Committee, but I found this meeting very helpful. And I'm glad that I did retract some of this. I probably could, but I figured to be prepared. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Robin Duff, and I teach second grade at Pingree School. I've been there for 18 years. And I'm also a proud mom of 2 students, not in the Weymouth Public Schools, but elementary aged and middle school aged. I'm here tonight because I am deeply concerned with the future of our schools here in Weymouth and our students. The students sitting in our classrooms today are not the same students that we had 10 years ago. Their academic needs are greater, but more importantly, their social and emotional needs are more complex. As educators, we see this every single day. For many years, there has been a public perception that Weymouth always finds the money. It actually was a statement made at our school council meeting. But things simply work out in the end. But the reality is inside of our schools, it's very different. When budget shortfalls, the impact doesn't disappear. It's absorbed into our internal cuts, and these cuts are felt frequently and deeply by teachers and most importantly, our students. In addition to staffing and programming concerns, many of us are working in buildings that are aging, deteriorating, and quite literally bursting at the seams for space. Come to our library. Classrooms are crowded, shared spaces, specifically our library, are repurposed out of necessity, and we're constantly asked to do more in environments that really aren't designated to support today's students and their needs. These conditions affect learning, safety, and overall the well-being of students and staff. For the past decade, we have been fortunate to have a nice budget. And as Mr. Langell spoke at the last meeting, he said we were just lucky. It's not luck. But relying on that luck is never a good plan. So it's not sustainable for students and what they need. and their need continues to rise. We are doing everything that we can to adjust and adapt and meet the students where they are to help them succeed. But without proper and thoughtful budget, this work just becomes overwhelming and unsustainable. Our students deserve more than a survival mode education. They deserve stability, support, and resources to truly thrive. It's heartbreaking to watch passionate, talented young teachers, many professional status, question whether they can continue their career in Weymouth because of budget shortfalls. When they leave, class sizes will most likely increase, remaining staff carrying more weight, and students lose the consistency and relationships they so desperately need. I speak tonight not only as an educator, but as a mom. And these are not just your children or our children, they are all of our children. I want the same care and support and opportunities for every child in Weymouth that I would want for my own. Please understand that these decisions have real consequences in real classrooms, affecting real children every single day. Our students deserve better, and we have a responsibility to do better for them. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Mrs. Duff. Related to the primaries. Go ahead. No, go.
Okay. I'm not a teacher as well-spoken as a lot of people in here. And I don't know if this is the right forum to do this in, but one of the things I didn't hear anybody ask about was security for our schools. I work in the architecture field and I understand the development of the pods in the elementary schools, and there's different designs. I'm at Hamilton, where it's a physical separate structure. And at the beginning of the school year, it was completely open. Now there's a chain link fence with a little courtyard area. My understanding is that there's not a camera system involved in it. And I think in the world we live in nowadays, my family knows firsthand what can happen in a school when there's not cameras, when bad people come on campus. Separately, also, my daughter was lucky to be in Hamilton when Mr. Byrne was in the right place at the wrong time and was able to step in when someone was coming to our campus that luckily wasn't a 10 on their level of intention. But I don't know what forum or where that's going to be addressed, but I'd rather not see our town end up on the news. And it's very short money. And there's all different spectrums of situations of why that camera could be needed. And it's kind of shocking that it doesn't seem to be on anyone's radar. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. There's somebody else? Anybody else? Nobody? See nobody? Yeah. Okay. Just yell at me.
Okay. So I'm Samantha. I'm with Nash, the chair of the parent council. Some things that we would like also is a crossing guard. We don't have one. I think we're the only school in Weymouth without a crossing guard, and it's an equity issue. We are the school that Ashley was talking about with the specialist. I don't know if other primary schools are going through it, but we have 3 kindergarten classes and one is split in half. So our specialists have 1.5 classrooms at a time. Our other issue is space. We're very small. Our library is our second library space and our art space and our library space. And it's very small. So those are it. And thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carrie McCauley. I work for WEC, formerly Johnson. This is totally on the fly. I did not intend to say anything. Shout out to Ms. Perez. She does her best to support us in any way possible, but there's a transportation issue in this building for us, and it's not safe out back. Just this year, we have been told that we cannot
load or unload the vans unless there's a curb, like unless they're pulled up to a curb. Last year, we could go walk in the dirt. We could walk around. There's a there's a circle in the back of the building back here, where all our separate friends and, you know, everybody that's taken the van comes up. It has taken us so much time to try to get the van situation to move smoothly, and it still is not. And so just coming back from having a 2-day snow day, there was about, okay, the curb is here, about this much was shoveled. So we have kids losing their minds because they can see their van and they're being told that they cannot get on it. And we have to wait. And now, so if we get any more snow, it's going to be more of an issue because there's nowhere to put it. There's curbs, and then there's breaks in the curbs where we still load the vans. So it doesn't make sense. You know, we can load here, but we can't load here. We can load here, but we can't load there. It's not safe. If it has to be that they are loaded at a curb, then the majority of the back needs to be paved back there. So we can get these kids loaded safely onto their vans. I received a bite earlier this year because the student that I was with has no wait time whatsoever, something that we're working on in the classroom. But these kids are seriously, somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get hurt. We're not allowed to move around the vans in a certain way. Transportation is not always very helpful at times, because I have requested for transportation, the head of transportation, to be out there, because I myself, along with a lot of other people that I work with, have had to stay till almost 2:25, 2:30, because the vans are a mess. And it's just, there's no need for it. And the kids' safety comes first, and I get that, and that's what I want. But if you're going to tell us that we can't load in a certain area because it's not paved, then we need to pave it so they can get on the van and they can be safe, and we're not standing on a curb and kids are having meltdowns and people are getting bit and getting hit and all these other things that are happening. Kids are throwing themselves on the pavement because they can see their van and they want to go home. I don't blame them whatsoever, but it's a situation that needs to be addressed. The vans switch van numbers every day, so it's not consistent with who's driving this van today, because tomorrow it's going to be a different, you know, somebody might be out, a van might be down. So we try to put on the tags, kid's name, what van they're going on, and all that stuff. And it might be great for one day, but then the next day happens and it's all for nothing. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know, Principal Lorenz, I know you've worked a lot with Mike Manning and Faith and Transportation Maintenance. They're in this building, so if you want to revisit with them, I know you guys walked the other day, so certainly if there's issues that you need to bring to my attention, please let me know.
And we can follow up, and then one of us can follow up with.
Absolutely.
As well.
Yeah, they'll have them mock it again tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Anybody else with primaries? Go ahead.
I have a comment. Do you still want questions, or should I? All right. Hi, I'm Kara Willis. I'm Kara Willis. I'm the parent of 2 Pingree students. In fact, my son is in Miss Stuff's class right now. And I'm also part of a group of parents at Pingree who have been trying to raise awareness and drive attendance to this meeting and talk about the proposed shortfall. And I thought it was really important to just address this group to make sure you all know that we're on the same team. The effort for all of us to raise awareness about the projected budget is not directed at you. You are living and breathing this every day. But it's directed at the people in this room and beyond that. Many who just genuinely do not understand what is happening, what's at stake, or what it means when we talk about a 1% increase. Town budgets and spending priorities are a collective responsibility between all of us, residents and our elected leadership. They are ultimately a statement of our shared values. Transparency and public understanding are not optional in that process. They are essential. all of us who've been parents who've been trying to create urgency around this issue are not trying to put all of you on defensive. You are dealing with a really challenging situation. And based on the comments tonight, we are all aligned in our concern about what this could mean for our schools. But if we don't start coming up with more proactive communication and collective advocacy efforts about what our schools are facing, the problem will not resolve itself. It will repeat and likely worsen year over year. All towns and cities across the Commonwealth are facing these budget pressures. It was written about in the Globe a few weeks ago. But it seems to be particularly acute in Weymouth, if has been shared previously. We rank near the bottom statewide and per pupil spending. You can't solve this alone. We can't solve this alone. It requires leadership and prioritization from the mayor and the town council, which will include concrete proposals and really clear communication to all of us residents about the choices that are in front of us. All of us here tonight show that we care. It's a very good start. The next step is to hear solutions and a path forward from the mayor and the town council so that all of us can engage meaningfully and responsibly. So thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to add, between Brian, myself, and Tracy, the past 2 days, we have not got off the phone with town council and the mayor and Miss and Mel, probably everybody, Mary Ellen. We have had open dialogue with them. They, they understand where we are at. We understand where they are at. We are working collaboratively. There is a collaborative effort between us all. I have never spent as much time on the phone that I have in the past 2 days. So there is a collaborative effort. I have spoken to the education committee as well. And there is the previous to even knowing where we were budgetary wise, we had conversations about having a collaborative meeting, and that will occur now that they've gotten their subcommittee assignments. Did you want to add anything to?
Great segue. So I don't know if we can go on to the next. So great question. There you go. Great segue comments and Mrs. Duff. Also great segue comments because we're going to talk about process now, the government's budget, chapter 7, and actually in particular, buildings was mentioned. So for next meeting, the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, released today a 200-page document on, they did assessments in 2025 of every single school in the Commonwealth. I haven't read it yet because it came out today, but we'll talk about it next meeting. But in there is, hopefully it addresses aging buildings. A lot of our primaries were built in the 50s. Hamilton and West were built in the 70s. So I think it's both great segue to what we're going to talk about next, which is Governor's Budget Update in Chapter 70. On January 28th, last Wednesday, Governor Healy released her $63 billion budget proposal for FY27. Modest but ongoing commitments to education. The revenues from the Fair Share Millionaires Tax continue to exceed expectations. So that'll help augment funding for Chapter 70, school meals, circuit breaker. And this is the final year of the Student Opportunity Act. There's a 6-year phase of getting additional funding to schools. Weymouth benefited $0 from the Student Opportunity Act. And the minimum aid per pupil, which we'll get into in a minute, is set at $75 per pupil. State law is $30. So it's been kind of the practice the last few years that the governor has come out with 75. But just to put it in perspective, 6 out of every 7 districts, 270 out of 319 received the minimum increase. I'm going to repeat that, not because I said 6, 7, but I'm going to repeat that because it's important to understand that 6 out of every 7 districts, 270 out of 319, 85% of cities and towns in Massachusetts received a minimum increase in aid from Massachusetts for students. That puts all of the burden, in my opinion, onto the local authority, the local budgets. And you can even talk about at the federal level. So federal, state, local is how public education is funded. And we'll talk about advocacy in a minute, but I just want to put those numbers out there. The initial budget from the governor, which will go through the process House Ways means. It mirrors our budget process. And usually June or July is when we have a fiscal 27 budget, which begins July 1st for the next school year. In terms of advocacy, which we hear all the time and appreciate, how can we advocate? The superintendent, assistant superintendent, Pratt, and myself were at a meeting of numerous superintendents on the South Shore. MASS came, that's the Mass Association of Superintendents, came and spoke about advocacy, and it's really focused on several areas. Chapter 70, the formula review of that. Special ed circuit breaker, how do we get that circuit breaker funding increase to support cities and towns? And then the IG's office has a couple special projects this year to look at transportation across the state for special education, making sure that when there's no price gouging going on across the state. And then the tuition rates, the setting of tuition rates for private out of district tuitions, that's being reviewed too. We all remember a couple of years ago, is Meg down there?
Yep.
That was, what was the rate?
14%.
14%. And that was a blindsided all districts, that 14% increase that they came up with. So let's turn now to specific how the Chapter 70 impacts Weymouth.
Excuse me, Brian,
Yes,
did they address also the charter school reimbursement?
I'll speak to that here. It's part of the funding proposal from the governor.
And just going back to advocacy, I did reach out to Senator Pat O'Connor's office. He got back to, Greg got back to me this morning. He's gonna send us any updates on where the bill is for Chapter 70 and where the bill is for circuit breaker.
Yep.
They've already started those discussions. They're gonna see when they need to refile, if they need to refile, or they're gonna attach themselves to bills that are already processed. When I do have that update from him, I will report it out here.
Thank you. I actually skipped over that piece. I appreciate that. So the governor is proposing some one-time supplements to the budget for next year, and that would be funding circuit breaker at 90% versus the 75%, and then increasing the minimum per pupil, which I mentioned is $30 by law. It's gone up to 75. They're proposing $180. And then there is a bill, I guess it would be law at that point, to increase the threshold from 75% to 80% on the circuit breaker reimbursement permanently going forward. So there is that bill, but yeah, I appreciate that. As we go through this process, we'll continue to update the committee and the public.
And that will be a place where the public can testify in favor of that bill. It will be online, it will be in person. We'll get that information as soon as we know where it lies right now.
So as we look at, and I apologize for the screen if it's all here, but I mentioned our increase of Chapter 70. So Chapter 70, the funds that come to the town for education, the proposed increases, as I mentioned, the $75 per student, $442. We also get reimbursed for charter tuitions. That's $235,000. That's half of what the FY26 allocation was. So last year, if you recall, we talked about how the allocation jumped like $500,000. Well, we wondering, is that one time or is that like a permanent? It was a one time. So that increase of a reimbursement has come back down to level. And then we do have an assessment. So it's what the town pays out. And that increased from FY26. So what we look at when we factor all those in, we look at a net increase from the state for our students. And for next year, at this point in the budget process, it's projected to be around $40 per student, which is 0.25. It's 0.25% of our current FY26 budget. So again, when we talk about level service of over 5%, it's coming from local
contribution.
It's coming from local contribution. Unless things happen, circuit breaker increases one time, Chapter 70 gets reviewed and increased. But I wanted to make that point about the budget, where we're at, the governor's proposal, and then the Chapter 70 update.
And was the charter increase, was that based on legislation or was that based on earmark?
Ask me that again, I'm sorry.
Was the increase in charter, increase in assessment from?
increase in assessment is just their costs going up.
I'm sorry, the one-time funds that you talked about.
From
Oh,
last year.
From last year.
that would, yeah, I believe that was,
Legislation, or was that earmarked?
I think that was earmarked or it could have been millionaire's tax. I'm not sure which.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Any questions before we go on to our budget update?
What's that number of students that attend charter schools?
It's dropped a couple this year. I think it's just under 200 now.
Oh, a lot more. than I thought it was.
Double check that, just under 203. We'll get the exact number, get back to it. Don't quote me,
Okay.
please.
No pop quizzes.
It went down a few students. Been a long day.
Ready?
Okay, so let's go on to the boss is going to jump in and help me with this one. So yeah. This is ever, I mean, we will get this posted. We're literally working on things constantly. So we will get this posted, but it's here for now. We're going to post it, make sure Kelly posts it. So I want to talk about process for a moment and then get into this slide. So this process really began the budget process back in October. We received a memo from the mayor's office about projected revenues for next year. They were projecting 1% in October for next July. Given that projected 1%, they asked departments to start thinking about what an increase of 1% would look like for your budgets and what the impacts would be. So we did that. The exercise, proactively managed the fluid budget information we're receiving at the time. So that was the 1% that we're talking about. And as over the last few weeks, we've expanded those scenarios to 1%, level service, which is 5.27%. And then we talked about the introduction of all of the needs and requests that we saw, and that was our growth budget. So it was those three budget scenarios. But realistically, we want to focus on what was initially that 1% to level service. We already know we're not getting, and again, as Danielle mentioned, since October, we're talking to the mayor's office constantly. We're talking to school committee, talking to town councilors. And now as we get into the budget process and really what is the traditional budget season, we'll start to get some of those revenue numbers that we're talking about. So the first one is Chapter 70. We get the governor's budget. So between that very small increase that we've mentioned and the conservative budgeting that we did on Chapter 70 from last year to this year, it's actually a little more. So the budget impact will be a little more positive than what we're seeing in the increase. So that right away, we're kind of off that 1% conversation, right? So there's other areas where we will look at. So like with any budget, you look at growing revenues and decreasing expenses. So as we go through these scenarios, Chapter 70 is a big one. Circuit breaker is a big one. That's all state level. Locally, insurance is huge. We've seen double-digit increases in insurance. The mayor's office is hoping by the middle of this month, we might have information from GIC and what our premium increases will be. The governor did charge the GIC, find it here. The state asked the GIC to decrease their budget, reducing costs by $100 million. So the charge to that group is to decrease the GIC costs to cities and towns by $100 million. What that would look like for Weymouth, it could be, right now they're budgeting, I think it's around 10%. They're projecting that if that went through, then they could reduce a few percentage points. A few percentage points, to put it in perspective, 1 percentage point, I believe, is several $100,000 for the town. So we're hopeful that, through the state process, we start to see some of those insurance premiums come down. We don't know yet. And then we're also looking at ways to be creative in terms of finding savings, whether it's through other insurance savings, and we're looking at increases in revenues as it relates to fees. So we talk about fees on here, but that's really from the point of when we talked about it in December at Budget Sub, the 1% scenario. We've already come off that, And we just have to go through the process and see where we lie. So I'll turn it over to the superintendent, but that's what we've now developed, these scenarios here.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you all for being here tonight. I can't tell you how much that means to everyone here. People have talked about it. It's not the people at this table, it's all of us in this room and all of the people who are at home that move this town. And I can't say what it means for us to have you all here. We've been super intentional about trying to be transparent in hopes that we would get more people to be involved. The great thing about transparency is that you're all here, people are watching, people are paying attention, people are activating and trying to understand it. The tough thing about being transparent is you're along for the ride with us now, because I think in past years, it was like no one talked about it. And then it was like, boom, it was either good news or it was bad news. You had no voice and you just kind of took what you got. So you are along for the ride with us. As Brian said, we started this in December. The mayor asked us to walk through an exercise of 1%. And I was very honest, last meeting, it was not pretty. And we have communicated that to everybody that we need to communicate that to. The mayor and the chief of staff, thank you to them for coming here the last meeting, for listening to all of us. The chief of staff said at that meeting, it will not be 1%, it will be more than 1%. And we know we need to push even further than 1%. That's not the thought process, but that's why we've taken that 1% off the table, because we are moving forward. And it is a moving number. You're kind of, like I said, along for this ride. Things are changing constantly. But we are bringing you with us, right? So when we're showing you some of these charts, I have to be honest, I try to weigh the cost of being transparent and also not instilling fear in our staff and our families and students. I want us to be realistic. I want us to advocate. But at the same point, we're still in school. We still have kids and we still have staff that we want to feel good in school. We want them to be there for your children. We care about all of our staff and all of our families. So we try to do that balance all the time of letting you all know that we are supporting you as much as we possibly can and everything that you're asking for. But at the same point, we try not to get super detailed because, as I said before, we take people's jobs, their careers, their livelihoods very serious. So when we talk about numbers, that's one thing. When we have to actually look at names on a list, that gets very real for us and very difficult for us, and it affects families. So we weigh that balance as we go through this process, and we really appreciate your advocacy. So what we've started to do is let you see the work that we're trying to do. So as always, we're always looking for level service and above, right? When we're sitting at this table and everybody's asking for more things, that's level service of above, right? Because what you're saying is, this is what we have now, this is what we want more of, right? That needs list is level service and above. Some of the things sometimes we can achieve in level service because maybe we have retirement, so we shift and make efficiencies or shift priorities. So sometimes we can get those things at level service. If you've been paying attention, each district superintendents that we talk to all the time, slowly they're all coming out saying, we are not going to make level service this year. I don't think that's a threat. I think that's the state of where we are right now with rising costs. Brian had mentioned insurance. There's a lot of factors, but we're not alone in where we are right now. So what we try to kind of outline for ourselves and in the transparency outline for you is what these percentages start to look like on paper. So we've broken it down a little bit into staffing, the increases, and then the overall impact that our staff and students and families would feel. I can start down at the 2%. So when we say 2% increase, so that means we're not getting level service, we're not getting the amount of money that it would take to have everything we have now for next year. That means that we would be getting an increase, we would be getting more money, but it's $3 million short of what we would need to keep what we have now. What that starts to look like is at approximately 38 to 45 positions across the district. A bulk of it would be at our secondary schools. When we look at the elementaries, we've taken a lot from our elementaries. So that we would probably be looking at like support staff, perhaps ESPs at the elementaries. And then we would look at 3 to 4 district and central office staff. The fee increases, you can see across the board, we have anywhere from 20 to 30% fee increases under the 2%. That would be transportation, that would be athletics. It's for the most part. The other thing at only a 2% increase is we've looked at the potential of having to add extracurricular fees. So when we have all these after-school activities at the elementaries, at the middle school, at the high school, if they're not athletics, usually there's not a fee associated with it, but there is a staff member being paid to be there. So those would be something that we have to look into. The impact, and trust me when I say it's not 6 bullets is the impact. It's just, me trying to summarize on a chart overall what some of the impacts would be. For the most part, it's reduction in elective opportunities at the high school and the middle school, tier 2 supports at the high school and the middle school. Increase of class size always comes with reduction in electives. One of the things I worry about is a reduction in security and support staff at our larger buildings. Less administrative oversight of curriculum and support for our staff and families. We do hear a lot of times when we're cutting, what about the administrators? What about, keep the boots on the ground? And we understand you, we hear that, but you also have to realize that the administrators are the ones that call you all back. We're the ones that are supporting the families. We're the ones that are supporting our administrators. We're supporting the staff and professional development, a lot of those things. So there's only so much we can trim. We've already trimmed in the last few years, a lot of positions. And then it wouldn't be increasing in tech and curriculum and things like that. Moving up to 3% increase. And again, a lot of districts, for the most part, you'll see are between 3 and 4 when they're asking for, a lot of the districts that are saying right now, we're not going to get level service. They're in the 3 and at 3.5, right? 3% increase is still a $2 million reduction across the district. So you'll see, I'm not going to read everything to you. You'll see the positions start to decrease a little bit. There's still a fee increase, but it's smaller. We start sliding over to 4% increase, which is a $1 million reduction. Same thing, you'll see less positions, the transportation, maybe the costs are all. But I have to say, this is a super rough draft, right? This is the first week in February. This is us brainstorming. This is us hearing from all of our principals. This is us just starting to attack a problem that we might be having, right? So many things can change. Like Brian gave you a list of all the things that can change from the state level. We have things that can change inside the district. Sometimes we have retirements that affect our numbers. So there's a lot of things that are still going to keep happening. But as we've been saying, we want to be transparent. We want you to see these things that are going to start to affect our schools, that have already affected our schools. The other thing that we're not talking about is obviously if we're below level service, that needs list doesn't really get touched, right? So we've already lost assistant principals, STEAM, and all the other asks that the principals were looking for. Those really aren't in the conversation because we're still in a process of trying to cut more at this point.
And so just a couple notes here. One, thank you to Kelly Powers. She has posted this on the website under the FY27 documents, budget documents. And then, we're intentional in the graphic here because as we mentioned, we have been and we will daily be speaking with, town hall, mayor's office, school committee, town councilors. So we wanted to paint that picture of 1% was that worst case scenario exercise that we started in the fall. And as we have the ability to add based on revenue projections as things change to the budget process, that's why we want to give this visual of what it looks like to add back and what the impacts. And just from a timeline standpoint, we still have February, March, the school committee will meet twice with their public hearing and their public vote of the budget. It goes to the mayor's office. The mayor prepares the town of Weymouth budget for review, typically in mid-April. And then we go to May 12th, we go to town hall to present in front of town council in the hopes of a vote sometime in late May or June. So we are early in the process as far as the budget season goes. We just want to give you these updates up to date and know that these numbers are changing every day.
So just, I have one question and two things. When it goes to town council, just so people know, the town council can't add to our budget, they only can decrease our budget. They can cut our budget. The only one that could add to it would be the mayor. So no matter what we put across to them, they either vote it or they say we have to cut it. So that's important to know. Another thing, we're still in the middle of collective bargaining, and that process is continuing. That is a number we don't know. Currently, we're right down at three units.
3 with WEA, but we have 8 of our 10 bargaining units across the school department are all in negotiation or up for negotiation right now.
WEA is the Weymouth Education.
For people who don't know.
I know we need like an acronym.
We're adding. So the president corrected me.
We have 4.
Adding a unit. So WEA is comprised of 4 bargaining units now. 4 up. 5.
There's 4 up right now.
4 up now. 4 up.
And then in September the 5th.
Yep. And then our other bargaining units, we have 4 units with SCIU, and then we have 1 unit with ACME.
So that's a big question mark as to what that's going to impact on the budget.
% of our budget is staff.
Is staffing. So that's important. Does retirees, is there a notification cutoff date? Like, do they have to notify you by June 1st or that they're going to retire?
Jeremy's shaking his head no.
No.
I mean, they do, I mean, you can, at the time, really.
Right, but
There's a
is there-
process to that.
Because that would be helpful if we knew, that someone wasn't coming back in September, that we could backfill maybe with 2 teachers.
Certainly, yeah. We encourage people to come forward, not just for us, obviously that's helpful for our budget planning,
Right.
but also for themselves in terms of just making sure there's no break in terms of their pay with NTRS. So that's timely, because there's a process to go, for going through to start retirement.
And we have discussions with, we talked to WEA about this stuff too, as well.
So just, to be mindful, the town side has been wonderful. They are working with us. We're having good communications. TJ Lacey showed up at 8:00 this morning at my work with a Diet Pepsi in his hand, ready to have a conversation. So they're willing to do it. Danielle and I were just joking this week that we do have a full-time job. This is not our full-time job, but this was our full-time job for the last couple of weeks. And we'll continue to give our attention to it. But both of us are doing payroll at midnight instead of during the day, because we're passionate about what's going on. So I appreciate everybody's face here. It's wonderful, but it's only one step. We need to go and show unity when we do present whatever budget looks like over to the town side, to say, it's not just us, the 6 of us advocating for that money. It's everybody advocating for it. They need to hear that, it's important to them too. And I don't, like I said in my statement last week, I don't want to pin, police, fire, DPW, and say we deserve more. But we were elected for this seat, so we're going to, have our voices told. But it is important to have everybody come up here and talk to us about things. I wrote down so many notes, and I'm going to be reaching out to other people that came up to talk to us about other situations that are happening, around the town. But this is just a piece of it. We need to still keep going on. And when the budget moves, we follow it and keep an eye on it as well.
Tracy, can I ask you a question?
You can try.
In your history of being on the school committee, has the town council ever taken away from our budget?
Not to my knowledge have they ever cut the budget on us.
Not in my time.
But I'd be remiss not to say that we weren't.
It's also been, I've been here since I was prior places before this, but I've been here since 2018. And I think everyone in this room remembers the meltdown of 2008, 2009, and the impacts to the public sector on 2010 and 2011. That's really the big one, the last big one that's happened.
And we had administrators on this and on that side of the parking lot that said, don't embarrass, don't ask that, because, so we've never put together, to my knowledge, a huge budget so that we were embarrassing the mayor at the time to asking for too much. So we've never had it cut because we've always played fair, and
the growth has been there.
The growth has always been there. So
growth the last 10 years for sure.
Yeah.
It's helped.
But this administration is so different. It's so different. The collaboration, the transparency, the willing to talk.
And
it's so different.
We'll be talking a lot percentages, like we talk about percentages over the coming months, but I also want to put in perspective our budget. We're $90 million right now. Our operating budget is $90 million out of a $200 million town budget. So when we talk about a percent, it's basically $1 million. So when we talk percentages, I just want to explain that, because you're like 2 to 3, 3 to 2. So it's because we're almost $100 million operating budget. Our percent's about $1 million.
And we're people heavy. We're a people industry. Well, we're service.
We're people service.
Yeah.
Anything else from the committee? No. Go ahead, Ashley.
I've been thinking a lot about the budget, and I think a lot of us have lost a lot of sleep over it. And I've been observing and educating myself about the school budget for almost 2 years now, and I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts that I had. We're all responsible for picking up the pieces, and I've noticed that in advocacy work that people like to pass the buck. If we keep passing the buck, we end up running around in circles and never getting anything done. It may not be our fault, but collectively it is our responsibility to fix the financial situation that we are in. If each level of government does their part, then like a puzzle, we can slowly put the pieces back together. I'm really happy to hear that you reached out to Carrie and Rebecca to set up a
I didn't reach out. We have daily conversations.
Okay. I'll read, but I'm glad to hear that that's on your radar. So thank you for that. I also want to thank everybody that's here and everyone at the table. I would like to see meetings like this all the time, because I really do believe that public participation is absolutely critical to getting our country back to where it needs to be and where it should be. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your lives to be here today. And while I have been educating myself, I'm also new to this role. So I believe that we need to go through the budget line item by line item. I'd like each member to get a copy of our financial statements and go over them line by line. Not a budget book, but more of a financial internal audit that we can do as a board. This way we can see where we are spending our money and if we can cut anything we aren't actively using. I'm sure Brian, Alyssa, and Danielle have done this and continue to do this. However, I think what we offer as a board is a different set of eyes and a different point of view from each member. Someone may see something that someone else didn't see, and thus we can be more effective. For example, as we go over through our own home budgets, my husband may have noticed, hey, that Canva subscription, we've got to cancel that. It was a trial and we got charged for it this month. So there could be, unused subscriptions maybe that someone didn't see. Yes, this is tedious, but it is necessary, and the budget is one of the responsibilities of the board. I cannot vote on a budget when I don't know where we are spending to begin with. I'd also like to set up a meeting with the education subcommittee. You don't know what you don't know. Luckily, Rebecca and Carrie are on town council now and have an understanding of what the school department faces daily. But we can't rely on and assume that every town councilor knows the depth and scope of our problems. Meeting with folks individually is great, but more importantly, school committee and the new education subcommittee need to be in the same room to swap fiscal realities and needs. Keeping that dialogue open and available to the public is crucial for understanding each other's point of view and being transparent with the public. I myself have been trying to reach out to district counselors, and I know there are other people in this room who have taken the time to reach out to the district counselors at large as well, to inform and update. I know when I got an email from a constituent about the RISE program, I was really surprised. And maybe other people assumed I knew that, but I didn't. So I don't think we can assume that anybody in town council really knows what we need from your perspective. So as parents and caregivers and teachers and people that care about education, I would like to encourage you to reach out to your town counselors, your district counselors. There are 5 district counselors at large, and all that information is available. But if you need it, please email someone. Someone at this table has that information. So I think it's really powerful when a parent can have a conversation with a town counselor and know what these fiscal realities mean to them, really putting a face behind the numbers when they go into rooms later on to discuss. And then I also wanted to bring up the fact that we went to MASC training last weekend, and 12% of communities are minimum aid. We are part of that 12%, and we are worth more than minimum aid. Hearing that at a training session was concerning to me, and I think that's something to note when we're advocating. I'd also like to bring up, you can advocate for the bills. S400 is the Chapter 70 bill. There's another circuit breaker bill that we were talking about that we can all advocate for at the state level. There are things to advocate for at the state level that will help us create a permanent solution. I also wanted to bring up gateway funding. We haven't talked about gateway funding yet, but we do qualify as a gateway city, and a constituent in this room, Gus Perez, was grateful to him for educating us on that. And that is something that we can check in on with Patrick O'Connor as well, to see if we can get money there.
I think that conversation's happening between Senator O'Connor and
The mayor.
Okay. So I'm curious and hopeful about the gateway funding. That's it. I mean, just to reiterate what Kara said, we're all on the same team. It can't be us versus each other. It has to be us versus the problem. And I appreciate you all.
So just like acronyms, we love committees and subcommittees in Weymouth. So I just want to, just so the public knows and people understand. So budget sub is a subcommittee of school committee, and then the education subcommittee is a subcommittee of town council. Since the election in November, there's been conversations about reconvening that meeting. And as Danielle mentioned, it's a process. Like Mel and I couldn't just call up and say, hey, let's book it. It's a process to get the meeting.
The joint meeting, we can't have a joint meeting. There's a deliberation behind it.
But now that everyone's reorganized and appointed committees, now that we're in January doing this February now, it is a priority to get that done.
And I wouldn't say that the town council is not informed. Several of them do have students in the district, so they're very well aware of the challenges we face as well. And they're facing them just as well as many parents sitting at this table. So I don't want to, minimize their impact and their awareness of what's going on, because I think several of them are pretty informed that there are some substantial issues going on throughout the district. Anything else from the committee? Are you guys good?
Go Patriots.
At this time, I'm going to open it up to public comment. So if anybody wants to come to the table, please do.
Yeah. Hi again. First of all, I want to say I agree with Tracy. That doesn't say too often.
Too often.
You are being recorded.
Yeah, I get it on. I didn't hear that much.
Tracy said something to me early on when she took over the chair. She said, I've been doing this a long time and I'd like to leave the town off better off than when I got to it. And it really does stick in a lot of ways, and we need to work together from perspective to the community perspective, and we're willing to do that. And we want to understand, we appreciate the advocacy that you've taken, that you said today, that you're talking with the town and the town councilors. I do think we have the numbers on town council this year with the new election that we could spring both our way. However, I have no faith in the town, the fact they're going to add more money. It's because there's not a lot of money to go around. I'm not just going against the old adage of, we'll find money. There's no money to be found. Therefore, I think the advocacy, honestly, it has to be to the state. You have to be talking constantly, not with the mayor, not with, town councils, but with our 3 representatives. Jamie Murphy and Pat O'Connor, who have been prominently on us.
Mariano, don't.
He's the one with the key, folks. What he says goes in a highly democratic house where that budget is formed. And they have to understand that the 350 plus communities in this district, in the state, are hurting. And when you have a governor that has said in her budget, if you haven't read the budget, please do. If she said in her budget, she has an 8.5 whatever $billion rainy day fund. Folks, it's pouring out there. I've said that before. And she said that she's not going to touch it. Not going to touch it. Instead, that she's going to create another fund out of using the interest for it to do something else. I find that embarrassing. I find that derogatory. I find that a slap in the face to every citizen in Massachusetts, not only just communities who are fighting for the last penny, but to everybody that's looking for anything. Your health insurance affects everyone, not just municipal workers, everyone. Passing on $100 million to the municipal workers, that's uncalled for. The MTA right now is working on several different initiatives up at the State House. That's what they do. They have a very strong lobbyist group. Whatever you think of the MTA, they're in people's faces up there. We need to be there too, whether it's by phone or in person. We need to be talking to those people. They work for us. We don't work for them. And I think when they start to hear from superintendents and chairs of school committees, not just from Weymouth, you guys have your own groups that you talk to, but from people around the community that, listen, we can't operate like this. As the community member says all the time, we're in this for the kids. We can't be in it for the kids if there's no money, if there's no staffing, if there's no support, if there's nothing, if you're going to cut by force of the budget, support in a classroom and safety in the schools. This is not the time for that. And, I just think that the direction, and I will be right behind you with that, if that's the direction you go. We are already talking to Pat. We've already talked to Senator O'Connor. We have a meeting with the Speaker's office to talk to them about it. But we're just one little group in that caucus. But we need everybody working together. And I hope that the school hierarchy will take that to heart, because when there's no money in the town, we need to find out where the money is. And $8-something billion, that's a chunk of money. That's not going to cure everyone's problem, but it might get us through the hard time.
Thank you. Dr. Murphy said the MTA has some heavy advocacy on the circuit breaker in the Chapter 70. They have, write-in campaigns that they do pretty frequently. You can find that all on their website. Who's next? Go ahead, Gus. Oh.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Grassi. I'm a NASH parent. I adore NASH. I'm very involved with parent volunteering and whatnot. So it's my first time attending a meeting in person, but I am an active listener on Zoom. I just want to make a general comment from my own personal analysis of listening in to the meetings. I think oftentimes there's unintended consequences with certain decisions being made, and we can't mitigate everything. We can't understand what the outcome is, but I'll use NASH as an example because I'm close to it. With adding an additional first grade classroom, there is a space constraint. At pickup, we feel, and Mrs. McDevitt is amazing. I just want to say that. She does a wonderful job leading. But, you do feel it within the community, and the community has evolved since my son has been there in kindergarten. So just being mindful of what are some of these unintended consequences? Yes, they're decisions on paper, but what is the true effect in the day-to-day operations of the schools?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Again, another transparent meeting, great participation. It's great to see all these new faces here. I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things that you hear me say all the time, because I think having seen all these faces at other meetings, everybody's getting up to speed with information and more education around where Weymouth's school funding history is, where we currently are and all of that. So I won't belabor that point, other than just to make a couple of observations on the past history. Everything that's been described about the town council's lack of power around the budget. We have a strong mayoral system in Weymouth. That means that the mayor basically drives the boat, and he or she can do whatever they want fundamentally. Town council is typically a rubber stamp. Budget gets presented to them, but they have conversations about it, they have meetings about it, and then they vote the budget, and it always passes as submitted by the mayor. So I'm not sure how much help we can anticipate if history is any indicator. However, a lot of you were around 10, 12 years ago. I was with you there when we first engaged in budget and strong community budget advocacy. That was back in fiscal year 11 when we were trailing the state by huge amounts. Things have improved since then, but we still continue to trail the state on the school spending numbers and school funding in general. But the point was that community advocacy on the town hall side did turn the boat around back then, if you recall that. The then mayor was continuing to submit budgets, which, by the way, were also being submitted by school committee at the time, which continued to underfund the school budgets and increasing the accumulated school deficits back then. It was when the community enraged totally and engaged totally that the information and education began to really turn that around. You've all seen the document of the slide document that shows Weymouth's comparison to the state on net school spending and how we were below the 100% minimum back in 2008, 2009, 2011, but that it turned upwards. That was because of groups like this. Chair Nardone was on school committee back then. Chair Devine was a member of the community back then. Other people were here and participating in that exercise in those days. So it does make a difference. TJ Lacey in town hall now and Mayor Melise were counselors at the time and were very helpful in helping the community engage on the town hall side and help turn that boat around. I'm hopeful that the now mayor will exercise the same kind of thoughtfulness and recognize the issues that are at play in order to potentially help the situation with the school budget, just like he helped when he was a counselor 10 or 12 years ago. So it does work, and it can work. Community advocacy does work, but as everybody has said, you have to not only be present, you do not only have to be attentive, but in order to be completely effective, you have to be informed so that when you come to the table, you're providing information that is accurate, that is relevant. When you're having conversations with your district counselors and educating them, because in my current conversations with counselors, I will tell you that they are not aware of Weymouth's school funding history, and even worse, are not aware of the current state of affairs with Weymouth Public Schools in terms of academic outcomes. They think schools are great. I'm not sure what metrics they're looking at, but if you present them with the metrics that are available in terms of MCAS data, AP scores, SAT scores at the high school, they completely change their outlook because they're under the wrong impression that everything's wonderful in Weymouth Public Schools in terms of academic outcomes. We all know, and you all know, that is not the case based on all the metrics that are readily available on the DESE website for anyone to look at. And I'm going to suggest that with respect to that particular item, I will repeat this that I've said at other meetings. Weymouth School Committee and Weymouth Public Schools Administration, in terms of your advocacy in this exercise, a large part of it has to be educating and informing the town hall side and the rest of the community about the realities about Weymouth Public Schools in terms of academic outcomes. Holes in the roof with water pouring through, and you're asking for money to fix the roof, you have to make a convincing case and show everybody those holes in the roof. That's just common sense. And that's what has to happen as we continue through this budget process and any other meetings that take place. And finally, just for folks who might be new, this is not the first year that Weymouth Public Schools has been dealing with a shortfall in funding. The last 2 years were also short funded, $1.9 million and $1.6 million. And that's been the case in years going forward. In the financial world, there's a term called level funded, which is different from level service. And everybody knows that level funded, meaning you get the same dollar amount you got last year, by definition means cuts because costs increase year to year. I'm going to suggest, however, that you pay attention to the fact that an underfunded, shorted level service budget is also a cut budget, as you are seeing in the presentation. So just because we're talking about a level service budget, if we're not going to get the 5.27% increase in fiscal year 27 that represents a level service budget, it also by definition means a cut. Whether it's not 1%, whether it's 2%, that means a cut. Whether it's 3% to level service, that means a cut. The only place that is not going to be a cut is if we actually get the entire level service percent increase of 5.27% for fiscal year 27. Everything else is going to translate into cuts, and you need to be attentive about that as we continue the meetings going forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Shea, and I talk too much. But I was looking at the slide with the fees, and I was thinking, I've been to some of these meetings before, and you had brought up the fees. Why is the scenario of the fees going up even if we were to get a bigger projected budget? Like, why can't we just put on parents now that, yeah, they're gonna go up 30% and just kind of rip that Band-Aid off now? Because I think as a parent, I've been saying for years, I'm like, I'll pay more for something. Like I pay for the bus, or, when my kids are at school, I'll pay more for sports if it means like overall we're getting more for the entire community. So I feel like if any scenario is looked at, even, hopefully we can get the 5.27 scenario, I think we should still look at fees. I think that it kind of like we're relying on the mayor's budget. Revenue coming from Union Point, like that's silly. So we should, as an education department, be looking for more revenue on our own and other places to get revenue so that we're not relying on that going forward. I felt like I had something else to say, but it's slipping my mind. Oh, I wanted to say Tracy's comment that she made, and I've had other conversations with lovely people on this board. I really, really appreciated it. I really support it. And I would love, as a collective, I feel like the people that we voted in this time around, they were all saying the same exact thing Tracy was saying at the meeting. And if you're not privy to that, it was that Tracy, you kind of put your foot down and said, I'm not going to stand for a 1% increase. And hopefully that's not the case, but maybe that there could be more people on this board that puts their line in the sand that says, I'm not going to stand for this increase or whatever it is that caused for any reductions. I would really, really appreciate that, especially from the new people on this board, because I think, yes, we can have that fight that we don't want to have with the town council, but if they know going into it, this committee that just got voted in, with those people that just got voted in, we're not going to stand for it, because you have so many people coming to you guys. Because it doesn't seem like other departments have to go through this process of all these people showing up and asking for the bottom line numbers all the time. You guys are unique in that, and they have to understand that. And that then when you have all these people hammering at your door, then really call for it. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. Just to be clear, they went through the same exercise that the schools went through for the 1%.
Yeah.
Their process isn't as transparent. I will say that.
Like we can't go to them and sit there and.
Right. But they did the exercise just as well as the school department did.
Thank you.
And if I can just clarify, honestly, I get the fees. I mean, I had 3 children that were very athletic. They didn't get it from me, but they played multiple sports. It cost me an arm and a leg. I hate the fact that we have to pay to play. I really do. Gus, you know that I've been trying for years, because sometimes that one student that is on that team, it makes them stay in school. It holds them to a different, bar of achievement. I hate the fact that we have to pay to play. It's costly. Not every parent will apply for the scholarships or the hardships out of, whatever reason they don't want that. So we end up having students, and I know you know this, we have students that don't play because they can't afford it. And that could be the one thing that keeps them in school. So as much as I know we will probably have to look at that, I hate the fact that we have to pay to play in Weymouth.
And I so appreciate that. I know you said the same thing last year, but as a parent who, again, like I'm ready to be there and like pay all that too, and I hate it as well. I just think it's realistic looking at the other schools and looking where Braintree's paying and Hanover's paying out, whatever. Like, we're not even at 30%. It's not even a lot considering, and like, I'm sorry, but the revenue, like, where is the revenue streams coming from? We asked it last year, and it seems like there really wasn't too much from this budget that are creating revenue. So as a parent, I'm like, do that then, because it's.
And I get it. I get it.
Like,
I don't think, I mean, I'm 62, right? I don't think I'm ever gonna see that we ever have free sports.
But I also.
It's just never gonna happen. It's just a goal that I always
But
had.
there's an opportunity at the level of like the coaches and the parents that are involved in these sports. I know off the top of my head, kids that play club, and that they know like who those kids are that need that help. Like, it's there in the community that those kids can get recognized, and it doesn't stop there. So I feel like, I don't know, that's just me being very optimistic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And March 4th, so thank you for the comment about fees. March 4th is when we review fees in detail. Like we do each year, we increase each year based on the increase of cost of the activity of the program. So we'll review fees on March 4th, and it will get digging more on what that looks like.
And I think one of the parents had mentioned it back here. The thing that Tracy is talking about is unintended consequences. So yes, and I appreciate you willing to kind of step forward and talk about paying more fees and doing your part. We're trying to, you see the athletic fundraising, we're trying to do everything that we can to support our families. Because like we talk about the feeling of belonging, we know, especially even at the middle school, right? The last thing I ever want to do is charge families for middle school. If you do any research on risky behavior and any, drug prevention, all of that, they're like, keep kids in school, keep them feeling like they belong to a community, keep them busy. And those are the things that we're trying to do. So we don't have some of those consequences, but I appreciate that.
And I think there's other departments, there's other departments, the police, they pick up the crossing guards.
Yeah.
So it's not,
No.
they don't.
They gave us 3 SROs.
That's SROs. So they're on their budget, but they're giving them to us that we need those SROs, right? But that could be a costly thing. They do first aid and CPR training from the fire department for everything. So all the departments are needed. Like, I don't want to pin one against the other, but.
And just talking about the fees too, with the parent councils like Mary Beth and Nash, push that education that there are things available for families that can't afford it. And we will do whatever it takes for those kids. We just have to get that parent education out too.
Right.
Anybody else?
We had one extra. Oh, no, sorry.
I don't have any prepared speeches, but I just wanted to respond to what Mary Beth said. And first of all, I just want to point out, there are plenty of people in our community like her that says, we want to support our schools. We have the equity, we want to be able to contribute. And I think passing up on an opportunity to take advantage of people like this is a big failure. And I understand Tracy's point that there are people who can't afford it and who would need the scholarships, and they might not be willing to apply for the scholarships. And I think it's so important that we make sure that this is equitable so that everybody has the opportunities that they need, but also people have the opportunities to contribute. And a solution to that can simply be something that you have your fees based on income. You don't have to apply for a scholarship, but if you have a higher income, you pay a higher fee, a graduated fee. There are solutions to these problems where we can allow the people who want to help out, who can contribute more, to contribute more, but also still support the people who can't afford it and who want to be able to participate, but don't have the funds. We just need to be creative, think outside the box, find solutions so that we can get the funds that we need, but also support the people that don't have it. So
thank you.
Thank you.
No?
Like, if there's an alarm,
I know.
we're aware of what it is.
We set it off at a certain time.
Try to get us out of here. I set the timer on. So just, there was one additional as a anonymous, as a parent at West, I just want to thank the transparency, but also continue, because we sit around the table and throw around acronyms, so they appreciate the acronym explanation and continue that work.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm a acronym dictionary.
Yeah, we need to have it posted.
I'm like a graphic organizer of acronyms. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you for the engagement. We do really appreciate that we're not alone up here sitting at the table trying to make very difficult decisions. So we do really appreciate the collaboration. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second first, yes. So I'll make sure.